Hey there, welcome. Today I want to talk about a few realizations I've had recently, and that is the contrast or the proverbial distance between what we realize and what we actually put into practice. I'm a very big advocate of applying our insights, applying the teachings, trying our best to make sure we're doing right in our actions in our daily life. But it's this beautiful and yet daunting task of eternal change. There is infinite insights to be had, infinite realization, and thus infinite changes. And no matter how many changes we make in our life, no matter how many habits we alter, transform, how many mindsets we let go of and shift, there's going to be more, possibly infinitely more. And this is very daunting. This is very tough in a way. And there's this weird, I don't know how to describe it, this weird feeling of God is the habits you already have. God is the impulses and desires that we have. But God is also the insight to change and to grow. God is the teachings, both old and new, the teachings from the ancient yogis and the teachings we receive in our moment-to-moment flow. God is the will to change. God is the fear of change. God is the lies we tell ourselves about, no, I can't do it. No, it's too hard. And God is that irksome feeling penetrating our cells and our moment, telling us that that's a lie. And so we only harm ourselves by not engaging with that feeling appropriately. We only harm ourselves by holding on to the lie, the limit. And unfortunately, we uphold a lot of limits just to survive. And it's not just our karma, which is why it doesn't feel deadly. It's why it doesn't feel too menacing most of the time, because we are all perpetuating this network of lies together. And lie is a strong word, because it's not also like amoral as deception. It is just an illusion, a story that we uphold together. And when reality comes flooding in, actually when really the illusion starts to fade, because reality is always equally present, it is tough, and we hold on. We try to scramble to keep the illusion. And that is difficult. I've been through many moments in life where I was just kind of free-flowing, easygoing, not caring about money and job, and just trying to live my life in an honest, detached way, imperfectly, very imperfectly, but earnestly trying to not be attached to those things, and try not to be living in fear of a job or money or house or car or whatever the regular person does. And so I ended up traveling around and living in ashrams and farms, and what ended up happening was that was a level of difficulty, a level of reliance on the world that was not true for me. It just wasn't the way either. And so I picked a path where I'm more responsible, and I work hard and I work honest. And it's been slowly becoming more secure. However, that security is technically also an illusion. At any moment, at any time, something can happen. Something could change that shifts the timeline, that shifts the future, that both destabilizes it, but also maybe transforms it to be something better later. But in the moment, that the pangs of change, of growth, feel very, very real and intimidating. The issue is that that network of what can change and what is an illusion on life is so big. It's so big, and it's so, there's hard to face, because like I said, we're all doing it together. The illusions and limitations we place on life, the stories and the narratives, the things that we think we need in life, things that we think other people need, they amass so quickly. And we're all holding on to such a unique bundle of these limitations. And that becomes very difficult. In a world where people face those limitations and they're just hospitable and they're not attached to their resources and they're not really uncomforted by the presence of other people, by the interactions of people. They have no limitation on how people should behave, how people should engage with one another. They have no limitation on how much stuff they should have or how little stuff they should have. You end up coming to a reality where, oh, we would just share stuff. We would just hang out. We would feed each other. We would heal each other. We would support each other. We would live with each other. We would be generous. We wouldn't need so many things because we would just be able to caringly share the things that we acquire. But the fact that basically, because so few people do this, it makes facing the illusion extra hard. It makes it harder than it would otherwise, but somebody has to start. And I realized I'm afraid to start that. I'm afraid to be one of the very, very few in a Western country that live in such a way that I just give willingly, freely, and detach from all these stories and narratives and lifestyle conditionings. I've detached from a lot. I've accepted intellectually the lack of soundness of many ways of being, ways of thinking, chosen lifestyles, limited lifestyles. But once it gets down to that core of the body, that core of this right here, it becomes very difficult. And I think that this is going to be a wall for many people. And I've been trying to think of ways to move past this wall. So the wall is, we can detach, let's say, from, I don't watch Netflix as much. I've stopped watching anime. I used to watch anime all the time. I've stopped being so lazy, so I exercise. I lowered the amount of sweets I eat. I used to eat sweets all the time, and instead I pretty much, I'll have grains with dates and fruit and stuff, but otherwise I mostly just eat veggies and fruits and seeds and just things that are healthy, things that are good. I've lowered the amount that I eat. I've shifted to buying almost entirely recycled, refurbished, thrifted objects. Even this microphone is a refurbished microphone. My phone is refurbished, my headphones, this salt lamp is secondhand. It's you can change so many habits. I'm not bragging or anything. It's just we can go so far, but then there's just still so much more. And I think that this comes with a level of, for myself, exhaustion. And I don't know how to fully respond with excitement and joy, because I know that I'm not at that point where I'm oh yeah, I can transcend the body. So I'm not at a stage where I can not feed this body. I'm not at a stage where I can not have pleasure for this body. I'm not at a stage where I can I feel safe in being like a total ascetic yogi, like I'm not at a stage where I can give up my connections to my family, my loved ones, and just let them go into the wind. Whether they stay or go is fine. I'm attached to them. I want them to stay. And I kind of realized this the other day, that I'm espousing the infinite. I'm espousing the way of the yogi, but I'm not fully living it. And the thing is, I am actually willing to say, with all honesty, that is literally every single yogi you will ever meet in this era, in this epoch, on this planet. Whether they're in India, whether they're a Buddhist in Japan, or a Californian making money off of the pretty words of the ancients, none of them are actually living fully the life of a yogi, which is actually, now I'm coming to realize fully, it is a parigraha. So parigraha is a yama. This yama is detachment and non-possession. And I'm realizing, I'm not fully being myself, fully being that presence, that yogic path, unless I'm doing that. And I'm just honest that I don't know how. And I have no role models. I have nobody out there proving to do that. I think there might be some hidden in the world, but I think the odds of finding them are so low, they're more likely to just find you if you're ready. Because anybody holding on to wife and kids and house and money and clothes and food on a daily basis and a future that is secure, I don't think that they're actually living it. You can do those things can happen, but you can't actually attach to them. You can't actually possess them. You can't believe that there's an individual you that is maintaining those things. And I haven't visited India and, East Asia and countries where maybe there's just more flexibility in this reality being possible. But in the West, where private property pretty much owns literally every parcel of land, and where, the basic necessities of survival are corporatized, it is not easy to detach from those things. You don't really get to freely go into that world of, if I have food or not, it's okay. If I have shelter or not, it's okay. It's much harder. I feel in the past, when these yogic disciplines were created, there wasn't as much control on private property. There wasn't as much surveillance. There wasn't as big of a law enforcement. So you could find a little temple to just sit in. You could find a little grove to live in. You also probably wouldn't even have winter, which made it easy to just wander and live and be, fruit all year round. And you had a culture of people that gave to spiritual practitioners at least some level of food. So here you go in that direction, people just think you're crazy. People think you're weird. There's something wrong with you. So there's this extra difficulty, and it's probably for the sake of purity, of perfection, in actually detaching from all of this and living a yogic life in the West. And so this all came crashing down upon me the other day. And the only solution I have that I have been able to really grasp at is a sense of surrender, humility, and faith. And there's a sense of accepting consequence, and at the same time, a sense of accepting patience. So I think big part of it is this impatience, this instant gratification conditioning that we all have from technology and scrolling and videos and, supermarkets, just wherever we want, whenever we want, we have access to a thing that will give us pleasure, will gratify us, even to the extremes of our sexual pleasure and our, physical comforts. Most of us get this instant gratification met all the time now. And so there's this oh, well, I preach about the infinite and perfection and the boundless love. Oh, I got to do it. And I have to do it right now. But this is a limitation in and of itself, this impatience. And it doesn't really beget the truth of an eternity, of this never ends. It all changes, but this reality itself, beingness, doesn't end. It is forever. And so relaxing into the change doesn't need to be some instant big thing. At the same time, I have to let go of everything staying the same all the time. I think a lot of us do. And that requires patient, persistent effort. It requires consciousness and mindfulness to figure out how we can change. There's a certain level of yes, I'm far from the goal of complete detachment, but I can still keep making progress like I have been. But in the guilt, I guess, of not being perfect, clamor on myself the entirety of what I need to do, or the entirety of what the human race needs to do. And then that is a difficult intensity to respond to well. And so the prospect of incremental change, gradualness, this also comes in contrast to non-duality, which is very much, enlightenment and awakening is spontaneous, it's instant, and it's forever once you get there. Luckily, we have people like Ramana Maharishi who also beget the gradual path, the path of incremental change. And we have the Bhaktis who say, well, it's God's will. It's the infinite decide. There is no you to decide. It's just infinity. So if you have to go through stuff, then you have to go through stuff. And to love it and to appreciate it and embrace it is the way. And then there's a part of having faith that I'm trying my best. I went to a irresponsible path where I detached from money and stuff, but that didn't work. And now I'm trying to do something more responsible, to have faith in those lessons and to stick with them and to not get too reactive and impulsive and just change right away. And to surrender. Most of it's not me. All of it's not me. All of it's not you. All of it's not us. It is just the infinite. So just surrender to it. And that part can be hard because we have ideas about surrender, because we have ideas about ourself and our agency. And to let go, don't make assumptions about our agency, our free will and our self nature. To surrender without the idea of surrendering an illusion. There is no illusory self to surrender. The surrender is more letting be the infinite. Those are my solutions. Those are the things that helped me through these things. And patiently breathing through it and finding out, what can I do? What can I change? What makes the most sense to change? What makes the biggest impact? And to flow through those and take action on those. I think a lot of spiritual people come to the insights, to the awakenings, to the intellectual understandings, to the experiences, but it's really hard to apply them. It's easy to apply some for some people, like certain ones were really easy for me, and then other ones aren't. But I still think the more we don't shy away from those changes, the more we are fearless in the face of them, and patient, listening, not so reactive and explosive and impulsive, the more clear we become on what changes are we to actually make, what changes are actually required to create a high vibration, to create love, to create literal joy, that empirically present bliss. And then what changes our ideas? What changes our ideas from other people, from books, from teachings, from comparisons, and to transcend all those one by one with mindfulness, with presence, with awareness, remembering that awareness is the infinite one, that boundless love, applying what we learn as we can. Om Sai Ram.